Tom Rose. Excited to have you here, Tom. Um, I'd like to start with you've got the balloon in a box, coping with grief poster behind you, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Okay. Well, that's where my life changed. All right. My wife had breast cancer in 2004, 2005, and had mastectomies both times. And then until 2017, life was good. Uh, and then in 2017, the cancer came back in the chest wall. She was told she had 6 or 8 months to live, and she lived 2 years. I lost her on August 5th of 2019, so just about a month ago, or 5 years ago, a month ago. Um, and after that, I guess the encouragement of a friend and my son ended up writing a book called Balloon in a Box, Coping with Grief. And it's my grief journey. It's what I learned. It's how I learned to handle grief, what happened to me along this journey. And my speaking engagements, that's what I tell everybody. I tell people, what happened to me, day by day, week by week, month by month, how it changed, how I got to where I am today. So, yeah, that's what the book's about. It's
Okay.
my grief journey.
Okay. So your journey with dealing with losing your wife to breast cancer.
Right after she died, you go through the visitation at the funeral home, and then the funeral. And the visitation I remember pretty vividly because I remember the comments and the conversations of people. I had about 450 people go through that day. That was on a Thursday. And Friday then was the funeral. And I don't remember the funeral real well. It kind of fuzzy. I do remember that evening. I mean, it was nicer. It was August. Everybody was out here on my deck. I'm sure there were a few bottles of wine drank. Uh, and all of a sudden, it was 9 o'clock and everybody was gone. And I'm sitting there. And I remember I didn't want to come back in this house. She wasn't here. Finally sunk into me, what it was. I did. And I tell everybody that next morning's when my dark period began. I got up the next morning and everything was just black and white. I didn't care about anything. I didn't want anything. I didn't, I was totally lost. And I was that way for about 4 months. I hid it from my friends. I don't think I hid it from my son. I think he could feel it, but he was very good. Let me live through it. Let me get through it. He didn't push me. He didn't try to fix it because you can't fix grief. You got to let it happen. And then finally one night, well, it was in November, and I remember it real well. It was, if you could see my house is an open concept. So there's a kitchen and a counter, a bar, and stools, and then a living room and a dining area off to one side. And when I was in college, I was in theater arts, and in fact, one of the classes was setting up movie scenes. So if you were going to set up a movie scene, you could have set one up this night. So you picture this little old guy sitting on this stool at his countertop, eating his meal with his glass of wine. Like I say, the snow and the rain and sleet are hitting the windows. The fireplace is on, and Frank Sinatra's on the stereo. So if you were walking around with the camera there for a movie, you could get a lot of great shots. Um, and I remember sitting there and had a glass of wine with my meal, and I had a little more, and there was a little left in the bottle. So hey, waste not, want not. So finished that off, and I'm sitting there, and I think I got up to walk across to change the stereo, but I caught my foot on the other bar stool, and fell under the carpet in the living room. And I think that's when it finally hit me. I don't think I had cried up to that point, maybe a little tear. So, but I got up and I sat in a chair, and it was buckets. It came out. I mean, I was wringing wet. And my wife's favorite saying was, "It is what it is. Put on your big boy pants and deal with it." So I could hear her telling me that. And I remember going to bed that night and thinking, oh my God, tomorrow's going to be terrible. I got up the next morning. For some reason, there was sunlight, there was color. I guess I all of a sudden I knew that I had to take grief on, and I was ready. I have to be honest with you. The first couple of months, I kicked God out of my life. And I think that morning I said, okay, I got to take grief on, bring it on. I'm ready. And hey, God, will you step over here, please? I think I'm going to need you to go with me on this journey. Someone had told me, now we're going to get to the part with your question, okay? Somebody had told me once that grief is like a ball in a box. The ball bounces around when it touches a side, or when it touches the corner, it's really bad because three things happen at once: a memory, and emotion. It's hard to handle. And I'm thinking, no, it's more like a balloon in a box, because if you've got a balloon on a string and you want to move it right, you move your hand right, but the balloon may go left. So it's a lot more difficult to control a balloon. So that's my whole thing. The balloon in a box. The balloon is my memories. My whole life is in that balloon. And so what I learned to do was, I think some people fear that if they move forward, they won't take their loved one will be lost. And that's when I decided, no, no, I can move forward and take her with me. All those memories, 58 years of marriage, there's a lot of memories. So I can take that balloon and I can take her with me and I can move forward. And so, like I say, the friends talked me into writing a book. And so I wrote it. I had some journal notes, and my doctor friend in Florida, the one that talked me into it, he read my journal notes and he said, "Hey, you got to share these." I told him, I said, "Hey, doc, I was sat in English class with you and you didn't pay attention. That's why you were a doctor, and I didn't either. And I don't know how I can write a book." But one night, again, I think everything happens here when it's cold and rainy and snowy and bad. I was sitting here, my computer, and I had my glass of wine sitting here, and I decided, okay, I'm going to write a book. It was COVID years, so didn't have anything else to do, right? So I started in and I wrote a page and I corrected the punctuation and the spelling and everything. And then I thought, if you're an author, you're supposed to use big words. So I went to the thesaurus and changed all the words. Got up the next morning and read it and thought, who wrote this and what does that word mean and what does that word mean? I did that a couple of times. And finally one night I said, no, dummy, write it like you would talk to Jordan. And so I started in, said, don't worry about punctuation, don't worry about sentences, don't worry about paragraphs, don't worry about spelling, just type it. And it was like 8 o'clock, and all of a sudden it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had page after page after page. So I took those pages in my notes, and then thinking about things, planning things, I wrote a book. I self-published the book. I printed a couple hundred copies and thought, yeah, I'll give some away, sell some, maybe pay for it, and it'll go away. Well, service club in town asked me to speak, and I went and spoke about the book. And 132 later, here I am. So, and I decided then, gee, I wrote that book. I must be an author, so I wrote a novel. I got cocky and thought I thought, I'm not going to self-publish this. If I can't get a publisher, I'm not publishing it. Well, I got a publisher, and then he found out I'd written Balloon in a Box. And what he wanted me to do was, he said, I want a second edition, but I want the original the way it is. I just want you to go through and at the end of each chapter, write what you've learned going out and speaking. So that's my son and I were in advertising marketing business all the years, and we struggled for 2 weeks to come up with a title for the second book, and we came up with Balloon in a Box 2. So, really, really smart guys. It took us 2 weeks to figure out just to call it Balloon in a Box 2. That's
Very
what it is
creative.
now. That's what it is, Balloon in a Box 2. So I'm still going on speaking things, and um, I'm helping facilitate some grief groups at some retirement communities. I have my own little grief thing here, I guess. I've got people that give me a call. We just sit and talk. Because one of the things that when I was looking after my wife died, I was looking for help. If you go online, and you'll find a lot of stuff, some good stuff, but a lot of stuff is so clinical. Everybody wanted to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's not. Um, I know now. I'm sure. I know, absolutely know that what the griever needs is just, they need to find the words, say the words, and know those words have been heard. That's all I wanted. My heart was breaking. I said, just listen to me. I just want to talk. Just listen to me. You can't fix it, just listen to me. So, so that's what I try to do when I facilitate a grief group. I just try to get people to talk. We don't have a structure. We don't say we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I kind of use my book, and each week we kind of, like, there's a chapter on feelings in there. So we'll talk about feelings. One of the things I do, which is really fun, when I had a grief group, and especially if it's because they've lost a spouse, I always say, tell me about your first date. And I always get a big smile from everybody, and they'll share their stories. And once they've shared that story with everybody at the table, they're friends. They now know, that. So, and as that goes along, that just keeps building. Each week, these people know a little more about each other. we do one that I do. I say, okay, let's talk about regrets today because everybody has them. And you've got to get rid of them to move forward. You can't take those with you. So I say, okay, folks, today we're going to talk about the regrets. One time, that's it. They're going to share, and then we're going to get rid of them. Actually, what I do is I give them a rock, and I tell them, well, they're telling me that, hold that rock and put their initials on it and give it to me. And on the way home, I throw it in the river. Those regrets are gone, folks. You can't talk about them anymore. You can't think about them anymore. You can't do anything about them, so they're gone. Think the happy thoughts. I try to tell people I don't like the word grief. I think it's an ugly word. I'm not on a journey of grief. I'm on a journey of love because without love, there is no grief. So mine's not a journey of grief. Mine's a journey of love. And if people can get on that journey of love, they got to go on the journey and it's going to be forever. It's going to change. I always tell them that if my little talk, my book helps, you're going to go on the journey. But if my little book, my speaking, takes a few of the bumps and potholes out of the road, that may help you. So maybe it'll make the road a little smoother for you. But you're going to go on it. Don't think it's not going to happen.
Mm.
I've had people that tell me, it goes like 5 or 6 months before the grief really hits in. Especially when people have responsibility. I won the other day. The lady said she said I was the oldest in the family. She said, so I had the will and the testament. And she said, I had to take care of all the property and all the things. And she said, I didn't have time to grieve. I had to do this. I had to get the insurance policy. I had to do all this. She said, it finally hit me about 4 or 5 months after. And she said, I just woke up one morning and my rest of my family had been going through it for 4 months, but I just started. So it's the kind of things I hear.
Yeah. So it sounds like, when you're talking about what someone needs when they're grieving and they just need someone to listen and acknowledge
That's
and,
right.
I've heard you, I hear you, and
Right.
I can't do anything to fix it. It's your journey. That's really
And I
beautiful.
love you. I love you. Say I love you to them, and then they know. They know
Yeah,
somebody's there with them on that journey.
that
Yeah,
reminds
see,
me. Go ahead.
go ahead. I was just going to say, Bishop Sheen once said, and I don't exactly remember how he said it, but he said, sometimes in order to get into people's hearts, he has to break it. And he broke mine in 1,000 pieces. And I always tell everybody, and the only person that could put it back together is God. And he did, but there's still a big piece of it missing, and that piece is always going to be missing.
Mm,
My heart's back together. He's done that. My heart's back together. I am a I'd be happier if she was here beside me holding my hand, and if she was, we wouldn't be talking because I'd have never written a book, and so that's the kind of life-changing things that suddenly you start to look around and go, oh my God.
yeah. Yeah. So you're able to, you're kind of a living testament to how you can walk through grief, you can get through it. It changes you, and it should change you, and things aren't ever going to be the same, but you can come out the other side and still
Right.
survive.
You know what? I'm going to get a T-shirt made, and I'm going to type on, I'm a living testament. I like that
I like
phrase you
that.
just said.
Yeah.
uh, uh, yeah, it's, I still have my moments. It's been 5 years, and little things happen. Most of the time, when it happens, it's a memory that comes back, and it may be a little tear, but it's also a smile at the same time. You
Mm,
remember that happy moment, and you have a little tear, but you smile because it was fun. It was. I'll tell you, my wife was she and I were zingers. Okay, we zinged each other all the time, and we. I kind of back up a little bit. We were on the Fox morning show here in the region for 13 years, doing a cooking episode every Wednesday morning on the morning show,
wow.
and so we love to cook, both of us. So we take turns cooking. One person sitting at the counter and the other person cooking, have our glass of wine. 5 to 7 o'clock was our time to share our day. And but one evening we were done. We were, I guess, cleaning up the kitchen, and we got into one of these philosophical talks, like talking about mistakes. And she was talking about this mistake she made. I can't remember what it was. It was something really simple. And she kept talking about it. And I said to her, I said, Joyce, you have to sooner or later embrace your mistakes. She walked over, gave me a hug, kissed me on the cheek, and walked out of the room. Now you got to be thinking about that. She embraced her mistake. She zinged me. She got me good. You can see I started to sink in. It took me a minute too. I went, oh, that was nice. Oh my God, she's out of the room. She just embraced her mistake and left. So that was kind of the way it was kind of the way our life was. She was in hospice for 3 weeks in a hospital before she died with nothing but pain pills and water. I don't know how she survived for 3 weeks. But anyhow, I was there 24/7. Basically, my family would come relieve me so I could come home and shower and change clothes. But I was there 24/7. She died on a Monday, the Thursday before she died. So it's been almost 3 weeks. I left, and my granddaughter is a theater arts major, where she graduated theater arts and a great singer. My wife had said, "Oh, I won't get to hear Amanda sing." And I had said something to the family. Well, Amanda sang for her grandma that night. I guess she put on a concert for the wing of the hospital, I guess. But anyway, I get back and she sits up in bed, very lucid. And again, remember, it's been 3 weeks, nothing but pain pills and that. And she looks at me and she says, "We have to talk." Now, I knew right away when my wife said we have to talk, we were going to talk. She explained to me that, she wanted a closed casket because she wanted to remember the way she went. I knew that. She didn't want all the videos and all the pictures at the funeral home. And I said, yeah, I know that. She said, "There's a green bag in the closet. That's what I want at the funeral home." I didn't know it was there. Later I found out what was in it was a couple cookbooks we'd written and some articles about us being on TV. That was it. That's what she wanted there. And then she's holding my hand. This is the last thing my wife said to me. She squeezed my hand and said, "I love you. I'll see you in church." Now, isn't that kind of like a woman? I mean, can you say a sentence to your husband without a command at the end? It's got to be some. She gave me a command. Which she could have just said, "I love you," and left it there. But she had to give me a command. I got to go to church because she told me I have to go to church. So, and I laugh about it because I know what she was doing. And I had a little old lady I got one of my speaking gigs to come up and just chew me out for laughing at the last thing my wife said. And I had to explain to her. I said, "Yeah, I understand. That was our life. We zinged each other. She zinged me. She got the last one in. At least she thinks she does." I'm saving one. If we ever see each other again up wherever, she gets a zinger. I've got it.
You've
So
got
that
it
was our
ready.
life. Yeah, I got it ready. I'm saving it up.
Yeah. I'd love to hear, I mean, you're telling these beautiful stories, these beautiful memories. When someone is in the middle of the grieving process, how do you balance the hard side of that, right? The negative emotions, the hard emotions with the positive memories and retaining and respecting the memory of that person while still allowing yourself to feel the feelings.
Yeah. Well, again, it's all control. Our whole lives are controlled. We have to control things in our lives. To be successful, you have to have some control. You have to control your emotions. You have to control your actions. So that's where it starts. And that's what it is with the balloon. The balloon is this little thing to control. Now, if you think about it, and I don't know whether most people get it, but the balloon is really your brain, okay, because that's where everything's stored. And so you have to learn to control that like you do with anything else you do. And it's not easy. No, it's not. And again, if you begin to think about the things again that you did in your life with the love, okay? If you can use that love to carry yourself through, it's going to make it a little easier. The hard things, I think what you have to do with the hard things, and you have to take it, and then you have to handle it. You have to control it. So I learned when those things come, hey, I take it. I take the punch. Give me the punch. I got it. I'll shake it off and I'll move on. Once I've taken that punch, I don't have to take it again. I don't have to take it again for that, whatever it was. I don't have to take it for that. For example, we were talking about regrets, and I live here in northern Indiana, so it was fall of 2018. She died in August of 2019, so this was in October, like 2018. Behind my house is a golf course, one side, and a cemetery on the other side. And the cemetery is a beautiful place to walk, gorgeous trees and everything. And so we walked in it a lot. And one Sunday afternoon, she came. I was watching a football game, the Chicago Bears, as a matter of fact. You're in Chicago. uh, and she came and she said, let's go for a walk. I said, nah, that's all right, go. I didn't go with her. A year later in October, I'm sitting there in that room and it's the same. It's beautiful out, the leaves on the trees, and she's not there to take that walk. I did take that walk without her that day. And when I came back, I said, okay, this is part of this battle. That was a bad thing. Okay. It came back, but I can't do anything about it. So I took the punch. I took the punch when I got up and walked out in the cemetery and felt bad the whole walk that I didn't do it the year before. I couldn't change it. So it's gone. I mean, I can talk about it now. I talk about it in my speaking engagements. If I wasn't doing speaking engagements, I wouldn't even think about it anymore because it's over. I can't do anything about it. In our lives, I'm to the point now where I can't think of bad things that happen to us. I really can't. I mean, if I really wanted to stress and I'd say, oh yeah, well, I think back, I think, well, we had this big fight about this and, I did that. I lost a big bunch of money in business, a loss in business, probably 25 years ago. And that was a tough moment. Again, I was probably depressed, or well, depressed, but I wasn't feeling great about it. I'm not the kind of person that gets depressed. And I'm sure she grabbed a hold of my ear and pulled it and said, hey, it is what it is. Deal with it. I know that's what she said to me because she said it 5,000 times in my lifetime. Whenever, so I'm sure she pulled me out of it by saying, hey, just deal with it. It happened. So let's move on. Deal with it. Go. So that's what I try to do with the grief thing. The same thing. Okay, something pops up like that. I go, just get away from it, Tom. You don't need that. Remember this. Remember the story. Embrace your mistakes and laugh. Remember, well, Thanksgiving. It was the first Thanksgiving after she died. My kids came to me and said, hey, Dad, you go ahead and do the turkey like you always do. We're going to bring everything else. They're going to come to my house, a little bigger place table. So I'm there that Thanksgiving Eve, and I've got that turkey on my butcher block, my glass of wine sitting up on the counter, and I'm stuffing that bird with all those fruits and spices and everything I put in it. And I get ready to tie the legs, and you tie it, and you need a finger to hold that knot so you can tie it. And she always put her finger there, and she'd always say, who helped you tie your Boy Scout knots? We'd laugh. My wife was a brunette with big brown eyes. I think I told her one time that I thought was a cute little blonde with blue eyes, and I think I got a washcloth the side of my head. But so I think about those things. I think, yeah, as a guy, all the fun we had just taking a walk in the cemetery, fun we had on our vacations, and the joy that we had. We just have one son, but the joy of having that son. I kind of remember back at it. I remember getting married, and I was thinking, oh, this is the greatest day of my life. And then 3 months later, I roll over and look, and I go, oh my God, what did I do? Then a couple of years later, we have a child, and I'm thinking, oh, this is the greatest. This is unbelievable. And then we go through all those years, and he gets married and has a granddaughter of mine. And now I'm on top. I mean, this is the best thing in the whole world. And then my granddaughter's got all this talent. And so I'm able to go to plays and concerts and went up to college to see her in plays and all these kind of things. And, my heart just burst, with pride. My wife said she did the lead in Joseph, the gal that does all, if you've ever seen Joseph, she's in everything. She sings every song. She's got, so monumental part. And she was doing the lead in a theater. And my wife said, I don't think you breathed the first 15 minutes of the play. You just sucked your air in. I was so excited for her. So, so those are the things that I can remember. And that's the way to deal with the hard stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So remembering the positive things, appreciating that, enjoying those.
That's right.
And not letting the things that, the hard things that you can't control take over.
That's right. Well, I always said, people say to me, well, sometimes you can't control stuff. I said, understand that, but you can control how you react to it. You maybe not you can't control something that happened, but
Mm,
you can control how you act and how you respond to it. That's what you have to think about. It's
mm,
like, I guess it's like anger. When somebody makes you angry, you have the ability to control your reaction. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to throw a punch. You don't have to swear at them. There are ways to handle it. Only inside yourself. But you have to think. Wait a minute. I can handle this. Um, I just put a new presentation together and I just did it, and it's called "Happiness is a Green Banana." Now you got to really think about that for a long time to get the stretch, but well, the reason I say that is so. But a lot of older people, we say we don't buy green bananas because we don't know we're going to be here to. But if you take a green banana and you bring it home, now you can't control how it ripens. But what you can control is what you do with that. So when it gets so almost ripe, it's good to slice and put on your cereal, or slice and put in a skillet and with a little butter and then put honey over it. It's good there.
mm.
Maybe the next step it gets to is, okay, it's ready for a banana split. And then maybe it gets a little softer and everything. And then you say, hey, I could smash that up and put it in pancakes so I can make banana pancakes. And then when it gets really, really brown, you can actually freeze it and keep it, because then you can get it out and make banana bread with it. So, but the whole thing here is you couldn't control what was happening to the banana, but you can control what you did with the banana. So
Mm.
that's the way life is with happiness. You can control it. Like I say, somebody makes you mad, angry. You can't control what they did, but you can control how you react to it. Walk away from it. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my soapbox here I'm standing on, I guess, preaching.
No, I like it. I think that, it makes me think of, I'm preparing to have a child in a few months, and some of
Yeah.
the books that we've been reading are, about kids and their emotions and how do you deal with those. And it's a lot of what you're talking about, right? Which is, you're going to have feelings, you're going to have big emotions, or your kids are going to have feelings and big emotions. And it's not about convincing them not to feel them. It's about teaching them that you can have these emotions and that's perfectly
Exactly.
okay. It means you're alive and human.
Exactly.
But what you can
Exactly.
control is how you behave based on those emotions.
That's right. You are about to enter an exciting part of your life, little lady. Your children. It's scary. It is really scary. Again, I think we're talking about when my son was born, and again it was beautiful, we go fantastic, and all of a sudden a month later I look at him and go, "What did I do?" You know, all the responsibility. All of a sudden, wasn't 2 years ago, and I was freelance and happy. Could do anything I wanted. Now I got a wife and I've got a son, and I got to worry about making a house payment and buying kid stuff, food for the kid. And now my wife can't work anymore because we got a baby. She did finally go back to work a year or so later, but she spent the first year. But all of a sudden, wait a minute, we only got one income. All those things to worry about. But somehow here I am. It's 83, 58 years of marriage, and got a son that's 60, a
Wow.
granddaughter that's 33, and so life happened.
Yeah.
And somehow I made it through, and I lost a big bunch of money, but somehow I made it through it. I'm here. I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No, everything feels like it's changing and like it's going to change, which I'm learning, as I am an adult. That's the constant thing, not the exception.
yeah. Well, the other thing that happened to me was before I wasn't a bad guy before. I tell people if you can imagine, and I tell people to try it. Um, when my wife was in hospice, I was there at the hospital 24/7. And I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't read a book. I couldn't do anything but sit there and hold her hand. I felt her pain and think. Now, if you sit and think 15 hours a day for 3 weeks, you learn a lot about yourself. You question all your beliefs. I questioned every belief I had. I didn't change them. I questioned them. Why do I do this? Why do I believe that? Why this? And so one of the things I learned about everybody's selfish, okay? And I don't think we realize how selfish we are until we have to sit and think. You think back, well, I did this. I did that because of me. Oh, I did that. Why did I do that? Oh, that was the easy thing for me. Those are the kind of things that happen to you. I think I walked through life before that, and I didn't have the feeling for other people, maybe my family, but I could see a stranger. Now it's interesting. I stand up and I speak to a group. I've spoken to groups of eight up to 300. But I can, small groups, 40, 35, 50, where you can see their eyes. And I can see in their eyes that they're in pain. I can feel it now. I know it. Before I wouldn't have, I would have gone right by that. Now I feel for people. I guess it's empathy. I feel that I never felt, to a degree that I never felt before. And so those are the kind of changes that happen to me. It's also with age too. When you get my age, you begin to think about all the things you did. And I'm sitting here. I'll be 84 in 2 months, and I'm in good health. Or knock on something here. Um, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. I think I know what he wants me to do. I think he wants me to do this. So I don't know how long I've got. I'm going to keep going. I tell everybody the Grim Reaper's behind me someplace there, and I just keep moving so he can't catch me. If I stop, he might catch me.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. So I'd love to hear you mention that you can see the pain in people's eyes, and you have, some people that you're interacting with very much one-on-one, sometimes big groups. I'd love to hear a story of someone that you've gotten to work with, that's been one of your most fulfilling experiences.
Okay, two stories. Number one, uh, about 2 years ago, and I've done several of them, but 2 years ago, and this one in particular, a lady from my church called. And she said, I know a gentleman that just lost his wife. And she said, he really needs help. He knows nothing about the house. He knows nothing about cooking. Doesn't know how to do the laundry. She said, would you help him? I said, I would be happy to help him, but I am not going to call him. He has to call me. I said, tell him if he would like to call me, we'll talk. So he called. His name was Charlie. And so Charlie was a real nice guy. I could tell when we were talking on the phone. And I said, Charlie, I said, can you make coffee? He said, that I can do. I said, okay, I will come to your house. We'll have a cup of coffee. I'll look around your house and we'll talk. So I did. And the first thing we did was we went to the washer and dryer. I said, you know how to turn these on? He said, no. I said, well, let's figure it out. So we figured it out. I taught him how to do the laundry, what he should do. Then we got the vacuum cleaner and all those kind of things and said, went to the pantry. And I said, now, Charlie, he said, let's go to the grocery store. I said, no, 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 no. We're going to check the pantry first, and then we're going to talk about what you like to eat, what you would like, how. So we did. Now, interesting, we went to the supermarket, and he said he'd never been in the supermarket. He traveled on the road for years, for 40 some years. So one time he went to the store was he'd stop at the Ready Mart or whatever it was, on the way home, and she'd say, get some milk or get some bread. He walked in the supermarket and he's just going, oh my God, he's looking all around and all the stuff. And he started picking up stuff. I said, stop, Charlie. I said, why do you want that? I said, no, no, no. I said, we made a list here of what you have in your pantry and what you like to eat. So let's look for those things. So we did. But then I taught him some things in the kitchen. I said, be careful with the stove. Turn the handle the way so you don't walk by it and knock it off, those kind of things. Number two, when you take a pot off, turn the burner off before you take the pot off. That way you won't leave the burner on. I said, it happens to everybody. It happens to me. I still do it every once in a while, but try to get the habit of turning the burner off before you take the pot off. Okay, so we went through all those things. And he was getting pretty good. In fact, he had me over for dinner one night and cooked a steak and baked potato and a salad, but, it was dinner, and then it was a year ago. It was right before Labor Day, and he called me. And he said, Tom, my family's having a family picnic on Labor Day. And my daughter called me and told me to bring potato chips. And he said, I told her I didn't want to bring potato chips. I'm bringing a casserole. He said, what's a casserole? I said, well, Charlie, you got yourself into this, and I'm not going to do it for you if that's what you think. I said, I'm emailing you a recipe right now. I said, when you get it, you call me and we'll walk through it. We did. Simple little casserole we did. I said, can you make it? So he called me back about 2 or 3 days after Labor, and he said, my casserole is a hit. But my family's accusing me of buying it someplace, and I can't convince them. My daughter finally realized it was one of Mom's casserole dishes, so I must have made it. So yeah, that one. And then kind of a little more sad than that, because this guy, I tell you today, this guy he's let's see, my wife died 5 years ago. His wife died 3 years ago. So he's kind of a friend now, and he is on a happy journey too. He's on a love journey. He tells me that all the time. He'd come over and just give me a hug and say, thank you for putting me on this love journey. So that's the kind of thing that happens. Well, two other stories. This lady uh, was speaking, it was Fort Wayne, Indiana, where not important, came up to me afterwards and she said, can I give you a hug? I said, hey, I take hugs from ladies all the time. And she gave me a big hug and she said, thank you, thank you, thank you for getting me out of my dark period. I said, how long's it been? She said, 12 years. I said, ma'am, if I'd have been in my dark period for 12 years, I wouldn't be here. And her friend standing beside her is nodding her head. And she said, I'm telling you, she's right. I've been her friend for 50 years, and this woman hasn't smiled in the last 3. She said, I've tried everything. She said, but you said a couple of things, I can't remember what they were now, to me were incidental, but hit her. She said she laughed, she smiled. She leaned over to me and said, I think I understand what I have to do. So that kind of thing. Then I got a call from prison, actually jail, south of us here. A young lady on the phone, and she said, Mr. Rose, I would like you to come speak to my drug rehabilitation group. And I said, wait a minute. You know who you're talking to? And she said, well, yes, you wrote a book on grief. I said, yeah, so prison? What? She said, remember, she said, majority of these people in this program are here because of some kind of grief. Something pushed them over the edge, and drugs was their way out, or was what they thought there was their way out. And she said, so they're in this program. It's an educational program. She said, what I'd like you to do is come and speak, and then I'll give them all your book, and their assignment will be to read your book. And I want you to come back in 2 weeks, and they are to ask you questions. And I said, okay. So I can remember it was hot August day. I go down, it's about 40 miles south of here. I go park in the parking lot, go in, and I'm thinking this is going to be a bust because these guys have to be at the table, right? They have to, because it's a class thing. It's part of their they get a lighter sentence by taking this program. The judge says if you go in this program, you're in an educational program. So anyway, so I'm thinking they're going to sit there and look up in the sky and look at. So I'm doing my presentation. I look around and they're all glued on me. I say a thing in my presentation about saying I love you. We don't say it enough, and I tell everybody, be sure to say I love you to your spouse, your neighbor, your kids, your people at work. Say it. We don't say it enough. So anyway, I get ready to leave, and they're all walking up. There's 12 of them. They all walked up to me, and I thought they're going to stick their hand out to shake my hand. Every one of them gave me a hug and said, I love you. Now, I walked out to my car. It was real hot, and I opened up the door, turned the air conditioner on. I'm sitting there, and I'm crying. And tears run down my face. I mean, emotionally, it got me. And there's some lady beside me, looked up, she said, you okay, sir? I said, yeah, ma'am, I'm all right, I'll make it. But those kind of things that happen to me at these things tell me that at least I'm making a difference. And I didn't know that I could. And I don't mean to pump myself up and say I'm this great preacher of this stuff. I'm just sharing what happened to me is all. It's like I told somebody, I said, I'm not making any of this up. This is not a story. I'm just telling you what happened to me. If it helps you, that's great. But it's helping me doing it, helping me sharing. So, that's where I am, I guess. And I could go on story after story, but I'll tell you one that kind of struck me. I tell people that grief is different but the same for everyone. It's different for everyone, only it's the same. I had a group that I went to. It's south of here again. It's a group called LIFE. It's Living in Transition Every Day, I think. and it's all kinds of people. Anyway, I went and gave my presentation, and the guy that runs the program called me and said, could I use your book to conduct my grief class? I said, well, certainly, feel free. And so I saw him, and a couple of weeks later, I said, well, how's the class going with the book? I'm interested to know how you're using it. He said, well, why don't we do it on Tuesday night? Why don't you come down? I said, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to interrupt what you're doing. He said, no, that's all right. So I went down, I sat way in the background. Now, he had 12 people around the table. He used a book, and I told you earlier, there's a chapter called Feelings. So he asked they journaled. That was part of their thing. Everybody had their little book. He said, everybody write down how you feel today. 3 minutes, everybody did. He read his, and he said, would anybody like to read theirs? You don't have to. Now, I'm going to go around the table and say, there were a couple of people sitting on the right that lost children. Somebody else lost parents. 2 ladies at the corner down here at the corner that were divorced. A couple people that just gotten out of prison. A couple people from drug rehab. And there were 2 gentlemen sitting up close that lost their wives. And the one gentleman got up and read his. They were around the table and read. He read his, but one of the divorced ladies got up and read hers. They said the same thing. He lost a life partner. She lost a life. 40 years of marriage and divorce. She lost 40 years of life, of living that he has. That's what I told him afterwards. We were talking afterwards. I said, you know how lucky you are? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, that lady that's divorced, she lost those 40 years, those things that were fun things she can't think of as fun anymore. But you think about those things and they're still fun. He says, you're right. I said, so, I said, he'd been married like 50 some years. I said, you and I are blessed to get 50 years plus with our loved ones, So that's what we should feel. We should feel good about that rather than, hey, So those are my stories. I got books full of them. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. It's not that I mean, you did lose something, but think about what you had that you can now look back on and
that's right. That's right.
appreciate
That's
those
right.
50 years.
Yeah, and I told another guy, I said there's a time and place for everything, and there's a time that marriage is going to end one way or the other, unless you happen to both go at the same time. In most cases, it's the man that goes first. And I think you women, I think you're hardwired. I think that day you get married, a little thing in the back of your brain said, he ain't going to be here the rest of my life, so I better prepare myself. So I think women, in a way, are much better prepared when it happens. At least been my experience that talking to people. Guys are totally lost. They're just floundering around. The women may be more emotional and everything, but they know what they're doing and they know what they have to do and they do it. So that's the kind of things that I think I've learned, over the period of time. Just hang in there, so to speak, but be happy. It's a lot easier to be happy than it is to be sad.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
I mean, it's
100%.
easier to smile. It's
And
easier to smile and not smile.
yeah,
It's
and
easier to be nice to people than it is to be nasty to people. So all those things, people say things. I hear them say things, and I brush them off anymore that would used to bother me. So somebody'd say it, and most of them are unintentional. One of the things that really struck me, and it's a big part. Well, it's a part of my book. When I was at the funeral home at that visitation, and all the people coming through, the things that they said, and I got afterwards, and I thought, man, I've been that person. I'm always one stand there in line and say, what are you going to say when you get up there? Okay. Oh, he was a nice guy when maybe he really wasn't. What do you say when you're going through that line? And so I developed a list of things not to say.
mhm.
That's the worst thing. Please don't say, how are you doing? I must answer that. I must have said okay 100 times. When what I really wanted to say was, how do you think I'm doing? My
Yeah.
wife died.
Yeah.
I'm miserable. Um, I had some that they're funny to me now. One lady came up and I was 78 when my wife died. She gave me a hug and she said, Tom, you'll find somebody to share your life with. I thought, oh my God, lady, my wife's right there, right behind you in that box, Um, uh, and she meant well. she would just try, try to make me feel good, um, come up and say, well, God needed her up there more than you needed her down here. And I want to yell at him and say, hey, God's got a whole bunch of people. I just wanted one. Can he share? So don't, go through that. And I think the best thing to do is, I mean, there's all kinds of things you could say. I'm praying for you and your family, blah, blah, blah. But the best thing to do is walk up and give them a hug and say, I love you. Because when you say, I love you, that means I'm here for you. I'll do whatever, that's it. That's all you need to say. In fact, maybe you don't need to say, I love you. Maybe you just give them a hug,
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I remember the hugs I got, I
Yeah.
can tell you I can tell you who those people were today. I remember them.
That really goes back to the, Brene Brown, and she's talking about depression and, how do you help someone who's in depression, dealing with depression. And she says exactly the same thing. Don't try and fix it. Don't try and tell them, everything's going to be
Right.
better. Don't try and tell them everything happens for a reason. That's not what they
Yeah,
need.
that's right. That's one of the things I said at the funeral home. Go through. Well, everything happens for a reason. Now, give me the reason for this. Yeah,
Right.
you're right. The one thing I would be cautious here that I have to be cautious about. Depression is a whole nother level that I can't help with because I'm not a professional. And a lot of people don't. I mean, most people don't go through depression with the loss. I've discovered that there are people, but they're the people who go through depression for all kinds of things. They need special help. So uh, I would, if somebody calls me and said, "Oh, my friend is so depressed with depression. I've been trying to get him to go to professional help." I said, "Get him professional help. I can't help. I can't help." Yeah, if you gave him my book, fine, and he read it, fine. If he wants to talk to me, that's fine. But I can't. I can't help him. If
Yeah.
he wanted to talk to me, that would be the first step of him realizing he's in depression and needs to talk to somebody. So, but I'm not a doctor of psychology or a professional, so I would stay away from that. In fact, I've told people at the retirement communities, if you've got somebody that's really in serious depression, please, I can't handle them in the group. I can't help them because I'm not a professional. You have professional people here that should be able to. Now, once they start out in that depression and become that, then fine, have them come join us and meet all the other people who are on the same road they're on. If
Yeah.
they're depressed, it's not going to make any difference what anybody else goes through or says. And they're not even going to see if it's something funny. They're not even going to see the humor in it, that the other people see.
Hmm.
When one person tells about their date and what it was a disaster it was, okay, everybody else smiled and laughed. The depressed person is going to sit there and not even hear it, not even know it, not even understand it. It was funny. In
Hmm.
fact, in my book, I go through my wife and I's first date. It takes 3 pages to explain what happened and how we ever had a date again. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'd love to ask one last question while we're on here, which is if
Sure.
you could go back and give younger you any piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh my God, the younger me. That's a long time ago. The younger me's a long time ago. Uh, Probably take in what's happening, listen to what's going on, observe what's going on. Don't let things fly by you. I guess the old thing, smell the roses, and no pun, my name's Rose, no pun, but smell the roses. Uh, make sure that when you have those memories later, you have them complete and full. You really remember what happened. You don't have to make it up, so to speak. I was always a person that did that in a certain way, certain things. I think there are certain, like I said, I could walk by people who were having problems. And, of course, I was having my own emotional thing, so I didn't need their emotional. I didn't have my own. But yeah, just make sure that you take advantage of everything that opportunity is given to you. I mean, you get to my point, and anybody, I tell them this all the time. I say, hey, someday you're going to be where I am. And every morning when you get up and look at that sky outside, you're going to be so happy.
Mm.
uh, every time you see a kid on a bicycle, little bicycle going around the neighborhood, you're going to smile. you're not gonna think of them as a problem as much as you are as a joy. You
Mm,
may think, oh, that kid's driving across my grass, and I'm worried about I'm going to run over him with the car. No, I enjoy seeing the kid. Uh, it's the old thing, when there's a song, I think, like Sinatra, when you shoot the bad guys, shoot at me. Uh, in his, what's his song about? Yeah, the older days. He said, when you're playing cowboy, shoot at me. Yeah, the little kid, I want you to, yeah, just, I see, I see couples walking and holding hands, and I go, oh, that's nice, that's nice. And so I tell people, hey, young couple, when you guys walk, hey, take all your wife's hand and walk.
mm,
People don't, I don't think, hold hands like we used to. I don't know. I don't see it much, but maybe I'm the wrong place, the wrong time. Yeah, but do those. Make sure you enjoy those things. Remember that. Um, uh, the I was I had the opportunity to do a speaking engagement in our theater here, which they just redid, and I'm
mhm.
standing backstage looking around, and I'm going, oh my God, this is where I had my first date. The one where your mom drives you and you go to the movie, and then you go to the drugstore and call mom and say, come pick us up. It's time to go home. And I was thinking about that. I'm thinking, man, what a memory. What a memory. What a fun thing, the life thing you went through. And
Mm,
back then you thought you knew everything. And you get to be my age, you realize you know nothing. And I still know nothing. That's it. That's my life, kid. And
yeah,
you are entering a super time. Take it
mm,
all in. And make sure that husband of yours takes it all in.
yeah. No, we're super excited. I appreciate that. I love everything you said, and you're right. It's very timely for, getting ready to have a child.
Do
Um,
you know what you're having?
yes, we're having a girl.
Okay. And name?
We're still deciding on that one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
How long
we're
do you have?
about 3 months, a little under 3 months now.
Oh, so almost a Christmas baby, maybe.
Yeah, almost a Christmas baby, which is my
Or a
husband.
New Year baby. Yeah, but have it right on New Year's. You always win all kinds of prizes. So hang in there.
That's true. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Tom. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really appreciate you coming on here and being willing to share some of your story. And I think that it sounds like you've helped so many people, and I would love for your story to be able to help even more people as they deal with grief, which, like you said, I mean, it happens to everyone.
Yes. And thank you, Jordan, for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you.